Hello there, everybody. This is Laura, City Scrapper. I'm so glad you could join me on my channel today. Today, I have a layout that I made using the June My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. This month, the kit was filled with beautiful papers and embellishments from a Prima collection. I believe it's pronounced the Meal Collection, and it is designed by Frank Garcia. For this layout, I chose a piece of the pattern paper that was in the kit, and I cut out the pattern paper that was inside the frame that is printed on this piece of pattern paper. And now I'm using some of the other pattern papers that were in the kit to create a new background for behind the frame. To fill the area behind the frame, I'm going to use a piece of floral pattern paper from the kit. And then I also have these striped pattern papers, and I had created some diagonals for another layout, so I'm using the leftover pieces of paper for this layout. I wanted to put a border along the edge of the striped paper, so I used the punch that's over to the left of my layout right now. That's called a knockout punch. Those are rather old punches. They're by American Crafts, and you could interchange the cartridge in the center and create different borders. I really like that particular punch because it's a very thin, delicate scallop. So I punched out a few strips and I put the scallops on both sides of those pattern papers. Now I'm trimming and inking the inside of the frame that's on the pattern paper. I use some Distress ink in Vintage Photo to ink the edges of the frame, and I put some adhesive on the back of the pattern paper, and now I'm positioning and placing the pattern paper over the floral paper with the stripes on it. I picked a few of the elements from the kit to include on my page, and I'm using my detail scissors and I'm fussy cutting some of the white edge off of the ephemera pieces. I don't cut it all off, but I leave just a small amount of the edge. And now I'm again using the Distress ink in Vintage Photo to ink the edges of all of these elements. Then I bring my background back, and now I'm placing the elements on the background. In the beginning, I thought that I would use a 4x6-inch rectangular photo. I end up switching that up a little bit, but that white piece of paper is just serving as a placeholder. That's where I'm planning on putting my photo. And now I'm using some ATG adhesive and I'm attaching all of those embellishments down to the page. The image of the lady on the lower right-hand corner, that's part of the pattern paper. I also added the image that I'm working on right now. It looks to me like a young girl. And then I thought that I would add a third chipboard piece that is another image of a woman with a hat on, and that I've already attached that up at the top left-hand corner of where I'm planning to put the photo. And I really love those images. I think that they're so beautiful and they go really well with the rest of the collection. On the left-hand side of the layout, there's already a very small butterfly that is printed on the page. So when I saw there was a slightly larger butterfly, I attached that down right near the smaller one. Now I'm going to be working on the title. I'm going to put my title underneath the photo. I'm going to rest the letters that I'm going to use, which are off to the left, on a strip of paper. And that's what I'm working on right now. So I have a strip of paper that's probably 1/2 inch wide, and then I'm layering a thinner strip of paper over the top of that, and then I'm mounting the strip of paper on another border strip that I had cut out. And I'm going to continue working on the title in a moment. Right now, I have my photo cut out in an oval shape, and then I cut out another piece of white cardstock to serve as a mat behind that photo. To cut out the photo and the mat, I use the oval Creative Memories cutter that is to the left of the layout right now. I'm going to position that at the top, and I'm using some fun foam to give it a little bit of dimension. This is a photo of my older daughter on her prom night and of my younger daughter, and we went to one of the kids' houses where they take pictures. So I got lots of nice pictures of my daughter and her friends. I always like to take a couple of pictures of both of my daughters together. They're always there supporting each other, and I just want to make sure there are pictures to remind them that they were always there for each other. Hopefully they'll remember, but if they don't, there are pictures to prove it. So now I'm working on my title again. I'm going to call this layout Prom Night. I'm using some thickers, and I got these in an older My Creative Scrapbook kit. And I use these letters all the time. I kind of can't believe that there are still letters that are left in this pack, and I still have enough to spell out a decent sized title like this. I cannot believe how far a pack of thickers goes. I haven't used up one before. I think this might be the first one I use up because I use it all the time. But I still have a few titles left in it, so I plan to continue to use it. So I have layered up the border and the 1/4-inch strip and the thinner strip, and now I'm placing that underneath the title. The strip of paper under the title really helped me to position the letters. They were easy to rest against the top of that paper, and then that way they were nice and straight. And then once I had them in the right spot, I used some adhesive, the ATG adhesive, and I attached them down to the page. And because I've used this pack of letters so many times, I didn't have some of the letters. I didn't have an H and I didn't have a T, but I just cut down some of the other letters and then pieced those together. I've selected several of these beautiful Prima flowers from the kit, and now I'm going to add a little bit of extra sparkle and shine to them. Before I add the sparkle though, I'm using a little bit of heavy gesso and an old paintbrush, and I'm adding just a little bit of the gesso to the edges. This just makes them look a little bit lighter on the ends of the petals, and I just think that that looks really nice, adds a really nice touch. After the gesso, I add some heavy-duty gel medium to each of the flowers, and that's going to help the sparkly diamond dust to stick to the flowers. Diamond dust is a very beautiful, very sparkly glitter. It's made up of very finely ground up glass, so you have to be careful with it. You want to make sure that little kids and pets don't get into it. So when I use it, I immediately return all the leftover glitter back into the bottle and I screw the top on tight. But if that's not something that you want to mess with, I think you could use any glitter in this same way. I could picture some gold glitter or silver glitter looking really great on these flowers, and I'm sure there are a lot of other possibilities as well. And then after I'm done adding the glitter to the flowers, I let them dry really well. The heavy duty gel medium dries pretty quickly, especially when it's put on thin. And then I will also shake the flowers off a little bit, and that way I don't have to worry about the diamond dust getting all over the place. Now I'm working on some leaves for the layout. In order to die cut these leaves, I use a die set from Pinkfresh Studio called Curvy Leaves. I use 3 different colors of Distress Oxide. I use evergreen bough, pine needles, and forest moss. So first I put on the evergreen bough, that's the lightest color. Then I add some pine needles to the edges of the leaves and some of the surface of the leaves. And then finally I end with the forest moss, that's the darkest color, and I just ink the edges of all of the leaves with the darkest color. And I think that that adds some interest to the leaves, that they're not all one solid flat color. And I also like the edges to be a little darker so that they will contrast with the background. And then after I'm done inking all of the leaves, I add some glitter paste to them. I'm using this Bow Bunny glitter paste. It's a clear paste. It just adds a little bit of glitter and sparkle to the leaves, and I just brush it on very thinly with a paintbrush, and it dries very quickly, which I really like about this glitter paste. And I just like the way it adds some more sparkle to the layout. And I had mentioned in one of my other videos that I noticed that when this is added to the leaves, it really brings out the colors of the Distress Oxide. They get a lot richer and a little bit darker. Here I'm adding some of the ATG adhesive directly to the fun foam, and I position my photo on the layout. Now the flowers are dry and I'm placing them around the photo. So I have some in the upper right hand corner and some in the lower left hand corner by the photo. And then once I had the flowers where I wanted them on the page, I used some of the gel medium and I attached them down. But you can see that it's taking me a little bit of time to figure out where I want to put them. I was thinking that I had the two flowers that look like roses together, and I thought that it would look better if there was one rose in each cluster and then some of the other flowers that have those gold centers in each of the clusters too. I didn't end up using the flower that's right now to the right of the layout. It has a yellow center. And I was thinking that there is no other yellow or no other bright yellow on the page. And my eye just kept going to the center of that flower, so I decided not to use it. If I really wanted to use it, I could have, of course, just gotten out some gold paint or another color paint and painted the center. That's very easy to do, but I decided that I had enough flowers in both of those clusters. And now I'm grabbing those leaves and I am adding them to a couple of places on the layout. I'm mainly putting them around the photo and into the flower clusters, but I also put one large spray of leaves underneath the title. The die set that I used to create the leaves already has 3 different sizes of leaf clusters in it. So some of the clusters are a little bit bigger, some are a little bit smaller. And then I'm also cutting some of the branches into smaller pieces, just depending on what I needed in each particular spot. I took off the chipboard flower spray that was over the photo. I just felt that it didn't really add anything, and I already like the pattern paper that's behind the photo, so I thought that I would take that away and then you'd be able to see that pattern paper a little bit better. And then like I said, put some leaves underneath the title. I really like to have some of the elements that are on the rest of the layout close to the title. I just feel like it brings the whole layout together. I don't want the title to look so different from the rest of the layout. That's something that I used to do years ago. I feel like I used to think of the title at the very end and it would always look just kind of stuck on. So that's something that I have tried to do. I've tried to bring that title into the rest of the layout, and the best way that I could think to do that is to add some embellishments that are already on the rest of the layout. I added some distress ink in Vintage Photo to the edges of the leaves. I was just thinking that the leaves didn't stand out enough from the background, and I thought that that would help them stand out a little bit more. So something that I really love to do is add these die cuts. These are little berries or little buds, I'm not really sure, and they're very tiny, and I really like adding these because I think that they add a lightness to the florals on the layout, and then they also bring some white back into the layout. Of course, you could make these any color that you want, but I always like to have little touches of white. And there's a lot of off-white in this collection. Some people don't like to mix off-white or cream and white. For me, I don't find a problem with it. Sometimes I actually really like that combination. It just all depends on the particular layout. And ultimately, there's really no right or wrong. I think that everybody has to use color combinations that they enjoy seeing on their layouts. And it's great with the Prima collections. There's always these beautiful combinations of colors. I just love the way Frank Garcia always has these beautiful Tiffany blues and pinks. I really love working with those colors. Now I have all of those little tiny white branches where I want them, and now I'm going around the layout and I'm going to glue all of them down. I'm using some gel glue to do that, and I'm just gluing those little branches at the base. I like the way it looks when they are slightly raised off the page. Not really raised, but they are not glued flat down to the page. It just creates a little bit of shadow. And then, as I always talk about, I sometimes like to move things around, so it gives me that option to move them around without tearing a big hole in the page. And at the very beginning of the layout, you may recall I added a butterfly on the left-hand side of the page, and then I found that I had 2 more of the same butterfly, so I added those in 2 different spots on the page, although the position of them might change a little bit. Now I'm adding a detail around the photo. These are strips of 3mm self-adhesive pearls. I get these from the Brad and Eyelet Outlet. I'm sure they're available other places. That's just the place that I found that has them. They're relatively inexpensive, and they're a nice little addition to pages. I have to go back and add some glue to them. Whenever I put these on any kind of a circle, or I guess an oval as well, they will initially stay stuck down, but then they will come up from the page later on. So I do use some gel glue and I give them a little extra reinforcement, and I do that off camera. And then I move the butterfly that was on the bottom left-hand side to the center right underneath the title, like right in the center of the title on that branch, and I really like it there. And then I wanted to add some pearls to the centers of the butterflies. I'm using some loose pearls. Sometimes I use the same strips of white pearls that I used around the photo in this layout, but I'm just using some very tiny pearls. I'm using a slightly larger pearl for the head of the butterfly, and then I'm putting some smaller pearls underneath it. I added a slightly larger pearl between the two words of the title. Sorry, the filming's a little odd here, but all I'm doing is adding a little bit more of that Bow Bunny glitter paste to each of those butterflies that I have on the layout. That's the last touch, and that completes this layout. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. In the description box, as always, you will find the link to the My Creative Scrapbook website, and if you are interested, you can take a look at this month's kits. Tomorrow is the big reveal for July, and if you would like, you can purchase a subscription. I'm going to have a lot of videos coming out this month. I'm catching up on some videos that I haven't voiced over, so I hope that you will join me again soon. I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.